When you hear the name Mother Teresa, you probably picture a saint, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a symbol of compassion, a woman in a white sari with blue stripes holding the dying in her arms. But beneath that image lies a more complicated and controversial history. Mother Teresa was born in 1910 in Skopje, then part of the Ottoman Empire. She joined the Sisters of Loreto at 18 and moved to India in 1929. In 1950, she founded the Missionaries of Charity in Kolkata. By the time she died in 1997, her order operated in over 100 countries. In 1979, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. In 2016, she was canonized as Saint Teresa of Calcutta by the Vatican. But criticism didn't begin after her death, it began during her lifetime. One of the most detailed investigations came from the British journalist Christopher Hitchens, who published The Missionary Position in 1995. Hitchens accused Mother Teresa of promoting suffering rather than alleviating it. He cited conditions inside the Kolkata home for the dying in Kolkata. Former volunteers and medical professionals reported patients lying on simple cots, limited diagnostic equipment, and minimal pain management. In 1994, Dr. Robin Fox, then editor of The Lancet, visited the Kolkata facility. He later wrote that there was a lack of systematic diagnosis, inadequate pain control, and unhygienic practices such as reusing needles. Fox noted that many patients were suffering from conditions that could have been treated. Mother Teresa, however, was known for statements that reframed suffering spiritually. She once said, "I think it is very beautiful for the poor to accept their lot, to share it with the passion of Christ." And in another interview, "Suffering is a gift from God." To supporters, these statements reflect Catholic theology. To critics, they sound like justification for substandard care. In 2013, researchers from the University of Montreal published an academic review analyzing decades of reports on Mother Teresa's work. They concluded that while her charitable image was globally celebrated, the quality of medical care in her homes were often inconsistent with modern standards. The researchers cited lack of proper medical training among staff and poor hygiene practices. The missionaries of charities responded by saying their homes were not hospitals. They were places for people who had been turned away elsewhere. But the line between hospice and untreated illness remained part of the controversy. Then there's the money. By the 1980s and 1990s, the missionaries of charity were receiving tens of millions of dollars in donations annually. Exact financial transparency was limited because the order did not publish detailed public accounting records. Critics questioned why facilities remained austere despite global fundraising. More troubling were some of the donors. In 1981, Mother Teresa accepted the Legion of Honor from Haitian dictator Jean-Claude Duvalier, whose regime was accused of torture and corruption. She publicly praised him and his wife during a visit. Later, she accepted donations from American financier Charles Keating, who was convicted in 1990's savings and loan scandal involving fraud of over $250 million. When Keating was sentenced, Mother Teresa wrote to the judge requesting mercy on his behalf. Deputy District Attorney Paul Turley responded in a letter urging her to return the money to the victims of Keating's fraud. There is no public record that the frauds were returned. Supporters argue she believed money given to the poor was morally redirected. Critics argue that accepting and publicly supporting controversial figures lent them legitimacy. Another allegation involved baptisms of the dying. Susan Shields, a former member of the Missionaries of Charity, stated in interviews that dying patients were sometimes baptized quietly without fully understanding. She claims nuns would ask patients if they wanted, quote unquote, a ticket to heaven, and then perform a baptism if they nodded. The order had denied coercion, stating baptisms were voluntary and done only with consent, but the claims have remained part of a broader debate. Perhaps one of the most revealing aspects of Mother Teresa's life emerged after her death. In 2007, the Vatican published private letters written by Mother Teresa over decades. In them, she described profound spiritual darkness. She wrote, "There is so much contradiction in my soul, such deep longing for God, such deep repulsion. In another letter, the silence and emptiness is so great. For nearly 50 years, she described feeling spiritually abandoned. Some theologians called this the dark night of the soul, a known mystical experience. Others saw irony in the fact that a woman globally portrayed as spiritually radiant privately struggled with deep doubt. It's important to acknowledge this. Many people credit Mother Teresa and her order with providing dignity to people who had nowhere else to go. In an area where infrastructure was minimal, even basic shelter and human touch mattered. Thousands continue her mission today, but the controversies remain documented. Questions about medical standards, concerns about financial transparency, associations with corrupt political figures, allegations about consent in baptisms, and a personal spiritual crisis hidden from the public image. Mother Teresa was canonized in 2016 after the Vatican recognized two miracles attributed to her intercession. To the Catholic Church, she is unquestionably a saint. To her critics, she is a figure whose myth overshadowed hard questions. And perhaps the darkest truth is not that she was evil, but that her legacy forces us to confront something uncomfortable. How easily powerful narratives can simplify complicated realities. Mother Teresa may have helped thousands, but she also leaves behind a record that demands scrutiny. And sometimes history's most revered figures can cast the longest shadows. For this meal, I decided to make a spiced lentil soup, homemade bread, and a spiced chai panna cotta. Everything was absolutely delicious. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. Again, I'm Jody from Meals to Unalive For, and I'll see you on the next one.